Hello, David. I'm delighted to be on. I think this is the fifth chat now with you being such a prolific author. Myself and Steve Evans again here.
Hi, David. Good to meet you again. Fifth time, I
Yes,
think.
great to see both of you again too.
Absolutely, yeah. Brilliant. And how's Wiltshire tonight? Is it grey and overcast, or have you had a good day there today?
It's
Sunny
still
day.
bright. I've been out for a long walk. I thought I'd better get out while the weather's still good because we've been lulled into a false sense of security this year, I think, with such
Yeah.
a lovely, lovely weather. And then suddenly it will be cold and freezing and icy and, God knows what. So I thought better get out while I can and just enjoy the countryside.
Yeah, making the most of it. It's holding its own, isn't it, quite well? So I keep
Yes.
expecting to get the heating ramped up, but no, only every now and again. So yeah, let's keep it going like this for a few weeks longer, and we'll get through to November. I'll be happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've retired now, haven't you? And retired to drink wine and write. Is it in that order, or or, or do you just like a glass of the grape juice anyway when you're thinking about your stories?
Well, um, I've always liked white wine, so I'm not going to deny that. I don't drink it by the caseload a day, but um,
I
I
didn't.
would miss I would miss one glass of white wine, and it certainly we always reveal all these things on podcasts, don't we? Personal things that you wouldn't actually say to people you met in the street, probably. But
No,
um,
you wouldn't. Oh, yeah.
I I have a glass of white wine every lunchtime. I don't drink in the evening, but I have for years and years had a glass of white wine. A large glass, I fill it full of ice cubes, which I know is sacrilege. And that over lunch and when I finish my lunch, and that's my life. And I find I write better. Well, I think I write better after that glass than before that glass. But it might be just I've got into this routine now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is probably a routine, and there's not no harm in it, is there? Yeah, it does you
No,
good, makes you happy, and you're retired. Do what you want, as long as you.
sure.
Yeah, it's not as if you're drinking a couple of bottles a day, is it?
Yeah. Uh,
Can't
Yeah,
remember who the main character is.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
yeah. Which
I,
is actually I've been struggling a bit with that with this current book I'm reading, Green Feathers,
Yeah.
but we'll come on to that a bit later. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
uh,
what's that a bit
I agree. I totally agree with the power of positive drinking. David, I asked this last time, I think, as well. But before retirement, with your last role, international planning, you travelled all over the world. Do you miss this, or are you still putting in the air miles now with research, with the Mike Kingdom novels, which again happened all over the world?
Um, I love traveling. I always have, and it was part of my job for 45 years. Um, but I didn't just travel for work back then. I used to travel on holiday quite a lot as well because I love visiting countries. Uh, and so since I've retired, I I go abroad 5 or 6 times a year anyway, even now. Not I don't go specifically for research, but you can't shut your brain off. And um, for example, this year I went to the Swiss, German, French border. Just went between, and I couldn't help but thinking, no, this is a great location for something in a book or two. But I don't go with specific intentions anymore. I'll be honest with you. I've got enough back history around the world to draw on for probably the rest of my life.
On to books then. The Green Feathers is your latest Mike Kingdom novel, the fifth one.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to whether there's going to be a sixth one a bit later, but I think
Okay.
there is. We'll focus on, just for a short while, I want to focus on or recap on
Yeah.
each of your other books. So, the first one, Collation Unit, Tip of the Iceberg. This is not a pipe. Violin and a candlestick. Yeah, that's the one. And of
Yeah.
course, we're on the Green Feathers now, aren't we? So, quick recap on each of them. Uh, a point though, the first one wasn't a Mike Kingdom novel, was it?
No.
Now, did did you suddenly after that first book decide, hang on, I'm going off on a tangent and doing a Mike Kingdom series, or did Mike Kingdom come into your head in the first novel and or how did it
How did
transpire?
that happen? Well, jumping to the start of the Mike Kingdom one, just before I go back to the collation unit, um, I think we've mentioned before, Mike Kingdom was never meant to be the main character for a series because when I wrote the tip of the iceberg, obviously I didn't really know I was going to end up writing five or six of them. And
Right.
also, as I said, I think probably the last time we spoke, in my head, she doesn't come into, I think, to chapter seven or something like that. In my head, she was just a male character called XYZ for a little while. And for some reason I thought his name was Mike Kingdom. He was a male character. And then the second I started to write him, it was an American female in her 30s. And I had no idea where this person came from. So I wasn't intending to write a series, and it wasn't meant to be a female, and she wasn't meant to be American. But apart from that, it was all planned. But going back to the collation unit, I wrote that in the early 90s, and it had a main character called Empty. And he was the innocent abroad, really, who got caught up in everything that was happening in the Middle East in the very early 80s. And because I wrote that over 4 years of evenings while I was doing the day job and flying around the world, it never got published. I had an agent, but it never got published. So when I retired, one of the very first thing I decided to do was to self-publish the collation unit. I enjoyed that process so much, I decided to self-publish the tip of the iceberg. But when I did that, I realized there was so much mileage, or I thought there was so much mileage in my kingdom. So I probably should explain that my agent, my late agent, who I had for the collation unit, he was very old, and before he died, he'd said to me, "Don't just wait for the collation unit to be accepted by a major publishing house. If you're a writer, get on writing. Don't wait, in bated breath for 20 years or whatever." So he said, send me a few chapters, send me 7 or 8 chapters of your next, which was the tip of the iceberg. And I sent it to him, and he sent me a page of, I think, 7 handwritten suggestions for it, where it might go, what to change, whether he liked something. And that sat in a drawer for over 20 years. And
Oh,
then when I retired, I dug out. I thought, well, I'll pick up the tip of the iceberg. So I took out his notes, and I obviously, given he was a very, very successful agent and very experienced all his life, I took his advice, and so I wrote the tip of the iceberg with him in mind, his constructive help, and then self-published it. And then after that, Hobeck took me on and the republished those and the My Kingdom series, and then all the new ones since. So that's why there was a gap or a break between the collation unit and the tip of the iceberg, because he said to me, "Go away and write a new character." Not because there was something wrong with the other one. It's just he was trying to, I think, inspire me to get writing, really.
All the My Kingdom series, of course, you can pick up them individually and read them without having to read the previous ones, and that's perfectly clear when you pick them up and do read them. But they do follow on quite nicely as it happens, don't they? And they get more and more exciting and keep up to date with very timely, actually, aren't they? The way that you've written them, they're almost up to date with current affairs, if you like.
Well, that's very kind because taking the 2 points there, the currency, that probably the hardest thing to do when you start a new one in a series is, and I do want them to be standalone or 99% standalone.
Yeah.
When you read a book, you don't need to know absolutely every fine detail about everything that ever happened. But starting a new book in a series without boring existing readers with recapping the life of 10 characters or some 10 incidents,
Yeah.
but putting enough in that the new reader picks up on everything that matters is actually probably one of the hardest things to do. And I've tried lots of different little techniques, and which are applicable to each book and each scenario. But your second point was about the currency, and I that turns me on a lot. That's one of the things that really stimulates me
Yeah.
when I'm writing. I read something in the paper. We can pick any of those books you want, and let's keep it in sequence. Once I read something in the newspaper about undersea cables or drug smuggling from Colombia to Rotterdam, or the upcoming Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting every 2 years abroad, where King Charles and our Prime Minister will be going, my brain just races. And given that, let's call it roughly a year from when I have my very first idea to when I wave the book in my hand, it means that hopefully by the time the book comes out, it is still current. Donald Trump is still president, even though I don't quote him exactly. But so I do try and keep it current, and I also people ask me how I start a book. It doesn't actually start with the main character, and it doesn't start with the plot. It starts with some international idea or conflict or something I've read in the paper. Once I've got that in my head, then the other two things follow.
Yeah, it's actually quite scary. It's that close as being as up to date and timely as possible. Yeah. It really is. I was like, that could have happened yesterday, Yeah. No. But and again, carrying on. Speaking of the current book, The Green Feathers.
Yeah.
Mike, of course, as we know, and I still keep getting Mike confused with male and female, even though I've read all 5. But Mike's a CIA analyst.
Yeah.
Goes in search of this Tina.
Yeah.
Who's gone missing. Tina's at MI6, isn't she? She's gone missing. And the plot thickens because at the start of the book, in the prologue, you talk about a new ventilation shaft that's been fitted over a restaurant and 2 shots fired. Now, I'm assuming, because I'm still 40 pages from the end of the book, and I don't want to give anything away, I'm assuming that comes into it at some point and something happens. And I'm still trying to work out what's going on with Peter Swift, Johnny Boswell, and Gordon Overton between them.
Yeah.
Well, one's an alias, and I'm still struggling to get there with 40 pages to go, but I can't be far away now. Hopefully I'll find out later when I get to read on. But
you need to write what you like reading. If you try to write in a genre that you don't like or you've got no experience in, I think you're doomed to some sort of failure. And I like reading thrillers and whodunits and crime books where all the clues are there on the way through. There are red herrings, of course, but not pointless red herrings, that are there just to... Everything should come together or have served a purpose, whether that purpose is positive or negative. I also don't like to read a book where the killer comes in on the penultimate page and there's no way you could have known that or having read the whole book. So the characters you've just mentioned and the who was shot and who shot and will of course be resolved. It has to be. That's what the book's about. But when you do read the last 40 pages, which I loved writing, I have to tell you, I absolutely adore writing those last 40 pages. And I know it's quite difficult to talk about thrillers and crime books without giving plots away, but you'll know that I always write 80,000 words, 32 chapters. But in this one, I did part 1 and part 2, both 16 chapters. And there's a rhythm to the second part, which reflects the first part without giving too much detail away. And so it will pick up all the threads on that you're wondering about will all be resolved in your 40 pages, I'm sure.
I hope so. No,
That's good.
I know. I know
I'll give you the money back if they
yeah,
don't.
I know they will. Yeah, I mean, I've really struggled going through this book, trying to piece it all together and work it all out in my head. Whereas the other ones have not been easy to solve, but I've got a better picture of what's going on. I've just struggled so much with this one. So I'm not determined to finish it tonight, but I'm hoping I'll finish it tonight and find out exactly what happens. I was hoping to get it done by now, but then again, I wouldn't have been able to say anything because we don't want to give the plot away, do we?
True.
It's probably better you don't know, so you don't accidentally say, "Oh, Fred did it." You know?
David, book 3 in the My Kingdom series, The Violin and Candlestick. I believe this was nominated for the Spy Master Book Prize this year.
Yeah, fantastic.
Tell us about that. That's brilliant.
That is brilliant, really, because writing's a lonely existence and enormous fun, but obviously you do it on your own generally, and it's nice to be recognized. We all want to be loved a bit, and sometimes you wonder if you're shouting out into an empty void, and to be nominated again with so many brilliant authors. I went up to the award get-together ceremony in London, and it was great to meet some of the other nominees. One had come over from New Zealand. Which was great. I think we were all pretty doomed. I didn't think I was going to win, not because I don't love my own book, but because I knew, just to pick two, I was up against Ilana Berry and the Peacock and the Sparrow, which has won just about every award, every award on both sides of the Atlantic, including Sunday Times and Times Thriller of the Year, and everything in New York and Washington, and also up against William Boyd. So, and not surprisingly, William Boyd won because, of course, he's absolutely brilliant author. And I've been in conversations with Ilana Berry. I don't know if you read The Peacock and the Sparrow. I mean, it really is exceptional. No. But let me tell you about it. Talk about somebody else's book, The Peacock and the Sparrow. As I say, she's won absolutely every award, and it's a debut novel. Yeah. And she and I have been in lots of correspondence because for reasons that will become patently obvious in a second. Because she is, Ilana, the author, she is an American female CIA agent in real life.
Yeah, a real life My Kingdom.
Exactly. Yeah. So we were chatting away. I was complimenting on her book, and her book set in Bahrain in the Middle East, like The Violin and Candlestick. Yeah. And it was only after about 50 back and forth messages that I plucked up courage to say to her, my main character is a female, American female CIA analyst. And she was so gracious. She said, well, actually, my main character is an old male git, not git, she didn't say git, but you know what I mean? Duffer like you. So I think we're actually swapping experiences.
Does she wear wigs, David? Eleanor, does she wear different coloured wigs? Any chance?
I don't know her that well, but I don't think so.
She's got a black clear.
Yeah, I'll have to ask her. But I thought she might win because the book this won everything else, and she couldn't come to the award ceremony because she was at the major crime and thriller book event in New Orleans at the same time, and so she was there probably accepting awards. So I wrote to her and said, if you send me your acceptance speech for the Spy Masters, I'll read it out. But actually, William Boyd won. But I was flattered to be nominated.
The golden question is then, just talked about the 5th book, which I've barely finished. Yeah. Is there a 6th My Kingdom thriller in the offing?
There is. And the two of you can be the first to know because it's absolutely yesterday and today. So I finished writing the last chapter yesterday.
Excellent.
Still got stuff to go through and do. It's not a finished book, but you know what it's like when you get to put that last word on the last
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was yesterday. Uh, I've arranged today. I've arranged the date with my editor Lindsay to fit it in. She'll be editing it in January because before then I need another 6 weeks to go back through and plug the gaps and fill in the little mistakes or inconsistencies. Then it will go to my beta readers that I use the same beta readers, so they'll be doing that in November and December. Uh, then it will go to Lindsay in January. Then I have to make her changes that she suggests in February. Then of course we need Hobeck themselves, my publisher. They need their team to look at it in March, and then it'll be published in, let's say, mid-April.
Okay. So
I
look
can tell you
forward
the
to.
name of it. I can even
I was
tell you
going to
the
say,
name of it. There
have
are
you got a name of
you're
it, or
having
is it?
all these exclusives.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's called Jan the Dutchman.
What?
Wow.
Unusual.
So that'll make
Yeah.
you think about it.
Dutchman.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get my head around that now. What can it be about you?
You finish the 40 pages first.
I
Dutchman.
will. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
Jan the
yeah.
Dutch.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm. Let me think of that.
I've completely taken you back now, haven't I?
Yes, a bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Violin candlestick, and this is not. It's different.
I know,
Could be
as
a
you know,
good reason for it.
the covers are, I've
Yeah.
told you before, are done by Jem Butcher, who's exceptional. And I think um, each of them suits the book. So the violin and candlestick just has that sort of elegance about the cover with the old candelabra and the
Yeah.
image of the violin, almost a female body. I love it. I know it's my book, but I didn't do the cover. But if you just jump to the green feathers, um, what I loved about Jem Butcher, I sent him 6 or 7 pages of the book, which were the most relevant, so that because he doesn't read the book, he just wants some ideas. Well, obviously, if you've got a book called The Green Feathers, and you say to somebody, "Do me a cover," it's probably going to be green and it's probably going to have feathers on it. Really, I
Yeah.
mean, that's probably not a shock revelation to anybody. But he didn't put any feathers on it, and it wasn't green, apart from some gherkins that are in the middle, and there are slightly relevant. Well, they are a sub theme through the book. So and the way the cover is broken up and cracked like that, I just love. So I can't wait to see what he does with Jan the Dutchman. That'll be very interesting.
Yeah, look forward to it. Yeah. You mentioned Hobeck Books. Well, actually, you mentioned starting off with self-publishing
Yeah,
with Troubadour. Now
Troubadour.
you
Yeah.
moved on to Hobeck Books. How are they handling your work? Are they pushing you out for promotion-wise? I know they got in touch with me to arrange this podcast. I know we've had this as our 5th podcast, so we
Yeah,
would have been chatting anyway.
yeah.
But how are they helping with the promotion? Are they pushing it out to bookshops all around the country?
The the answer to that is probably let me answer in a more general way, really,
Okay.
which is that because I've just actually listened to the Hobeck do their own podcast
Oh, yeah.
every weekend, and
Yeah.
the one that I've just listened to this past weekend, they've been talking about uh, something that's been in the Bookseller magazine, where I think from memory, 20 independent bookshops have written a sort of open letter to the world, really saying that the independent publishers in the UK, and probably the same applies anywhere else in the world,
Yeah.
are really up against it with all the increases in costs for uh, paper, printing, everything else,
Staff as well, national insurance
and
rises
stuff,
and things, everything.
everything. So
Electricity,
they're all
gas. Yeah.
they're all struggling. They're all struggling. There probably isn't an independent book publisher who's, well, I won't say they're all struggling, but they're not finding it easy.
Yeah.
And the trouble is that they don't have deep pockets. The the This is not a gripe. This is just the way it is.
Yeah.
The big five publishers, with their deep pockets and their famous authors and their range of books that they publish, have so much clout. It's totally disproportionate to even just say five against the rest, and that the big chain booksellers and the big online ones want the big five, and they want the big names, and they want the celebrities, because now
Yeah.
every other book on a bookshelf is by a weather presenter or a
True, yeah.
dancer. And again, I'm not griping. Good luck to them. But going back to the essence of your question, an independent publisher like Hobeck can only do so much. They've got 22 authors. They do their best, and I think they benefit from having, if I say an author like me, they have many others like me who are able to self-promote.
Yeah.
We're not just handing over the book and then sitting back waiting for a royalty check to come in. We're actually doing podcasts or on social media or organizing competitions or doing events locally. So I think they do as much as they can. Would I like them to have £1 million to spend on book promotion for me? Yes, I would. Is it going to happen? No, no, it's not. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy with them.
Excellent answer.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terry and I have been having a bit of a chat about your books, and we both agree that they'd make an excellent film
Definitely.
or TV series. I would love to see it. So, have you had any approaches or anything like that? And I know you'd love that. That would be fantastic. But anything in the pipeline at all? Even a whisper?
No, not really. I mean, obviously, I write very, very visual books, so it's hopefully easy to imagine that you're in Trinidad or Guyana or Oman or Algeria or wherever. I think that might be one of the reasons why they might never be made into a series, is that if you're writing particularly for television, it's a lot easier to have two people in the lift for most of the book,
True, yeah.
because it's a bit cheaper than constantly flying people to Guyana and although if I could go off slightly on a tangent, but it is related. I've got a friend who is a CNN producer. In fact, he has a load of producers under him for Europe and Africa, and he was saying to me that he'd just been on a shoot, mostly for documentaries, mostly for factual things, but he was telling me and we all know about this, but he was telling me firsthand the impact of AI on the creative industries and on filming, for example. So I just mentioned Guyana then, which is one of the settings in the Green Feathers. Now, if you made the series 20 years ago, you would have probably sent somebody to Guyana, or at least to the Caribbean, or somewhere very similar to Guyana. Now, you can just ask AI to provide you the backdrop of Guyana. So perhaps it's getting easier to make more complicated books like mine, complicated in terms of locations, but actually not very good for the creative industry, the television and film industry, because they're just being usurped by AI, which is a mixed blessing, of course, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So, what are you reading at the moment, David? Anything in particular, or haven't you got time to read books? You still want to write them?
Well, you've hit on it there, really. I am spending my time writing. I've read the latest by Tim Viner. I think
Oh,
that's how
yeah,
it's pronounced. He wrote, a history of the CIA. It's a factual book of
yeah,
the
yeah.
CIA legacy of what was it called? Legacy of something or other. I've got to read that. Legacy of Ashes.
Oh,
And he's brought out the mission, which really brings it right up to date, right up to Donald Trump. So I've been reading that, and I've also read David McCloskey's Moscow X, which I've just finished. So that's what I've been reading.
Giving you ideas then.
Yeah, in a way,
In a way.
you're right that
Yeah,
I read David McCloskey's because he's ex-CIA as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, I read his book set in Moscow because I know nothing about Russia, so that's great. I won't be writing any books about, set in Russia. But I am very careful. It's a slight nervousness of reading books that are in some way like mine. I mean, I know I'm reasonably unique in that I mix genres slightly, but uh, I don't really want to spend my evenings reading a plot set in Guyana and
oh,
then during the next day try and write a chapter set in Guyana. It's probably not. It's just not a good thing probably. So I tend to read away from my own genre. Probably is the truth.
No,
okay.
fair enough. Understand that. So,
Yeah.
is that the sort of advice you want to give to a new writer? Is there anything new that you'd say to a new writer? I think we've asked this question before,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, sure.
as,
Well,
as you move
if
on
we're
with
talking
writing, yeah,
if we're
go,
talking about somebody who's unpublished, obviously,
yeah,
who's just thinking about writing, I think the first thing I can say it in just a few words. First thing is write. Don't stare at the wall. Just write. Write something. Get it down. Also, write what you know, because
yeah,
don't write about Russia if you've never been there.
yeah,
When you've written something, give it to your friends to read. Critical friends, friends that are actually going to read it and say to you, they like this, they didn't like this. Because if you haven't got the strength to show it to your friends, then how are you ever going to send it out to the world? So test it. And once they've given you their feedback, amend it, adjust it, edit it, and then get an editor, whoever you are, however gifted, however
Yeah.
many English degrees you have, still get an editor. You want a professional, detached person to give you the feedback.
Yeah.
That'd be
That's
my
great
yeah.
advice.
advice. Yeah.
Good advice. Definitely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. David, that was excellent advice, there, actually. But listen, then, time has caught up with us. So once again, we'll say thank you very much for spending time with us, David. Really enjoyed it.
I do it. I've enjoyed it so much. Let's do it. Let's do it after Jan the Dutchman is
April next year.
Yeah, why
Yep.
not?
I want to see that cover. Yeah, definitely.
And I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye to you both.
But for now, cheers, David.
Bye.
Thanks very much
Thanks, Steve.
again. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cheers.